Okay, I think we are now live. Fantastic stuff. Cool. How are we sounding? Is the audio all good?
All good.
Yeah, bro. I can hear you.
Fantastic stuff. So early doors, of course, we are, going live for the first time in a little while. I think the last time we went live was a Liverpool special. We had some heavyweights of the journalist game on that live stream, but we most definitely want to be doing this much more frequently. So we thought, why not? It's been a long international break, and with the Premier League returning tomorrow, what better way to prepare for it than to have a bit of a preview heading into the weekend. It's been a little while since we've done predictions and we've previewed a handful of games, so a perfect opportunity to, and especially with the very tasty ties that we've got this weekend, of course, with Tottenham hosting City at their stadium, and Pep and Jose coming to clash heads yet again. It should make for a very, very interesting tie amongst the other fixtures that are also going to be happening this weekend.
Big up, Loso, man.
Shout out, Loso.
Shout out, man. Just a reminder, if you're not yet following us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. Hit the like button. All of you that are here nice and early, hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to all notifications, so whenever we are going live, you can also you can always be notified of when we're about to, and obviously keep up to speed with all of the content. We've been hitting you up with content, and we always tell you and remind you guys to keep it locked and stay tuned and pay attention, because there's a lot more to come. We haven't disappointed until this point, so take heed to the advice. Stay locked, stay subscribed. Follow us on Twitter at podcast_TBG, on Instagram at pod_TBG, and keep your eyes peeled because we've got some very, very big things coming. Dare I say, even in the next few days and weeks. So stay tuned. How are we doing anyway, boys? Friday evening, how are we feeling?
I'm good, man. I was just happy to be recording. So yeah, man.
100%, man. How about you, Dej?
I'm blessed, bro. Happy to be back. We've been getting hit up in our inboxes, WhatsApp, family members saying, yeah, what's going on with the content?
Yeah.
But, we're happy to be back, and we've said it, between ourselves that, we have to be consistent, keep that content coming, not just player interviews, breaking down the game as well. So that's what we're looking to deliver from now on.
100%. Right. Okay. So we're going to start off the discussion, as we already alluded to, obviously, with, I guess, the biggest game of the weekend in Spurs versus City. And of course, on paper, Spurs go into the game with the better form. 4 wins out of 5 and 3 on the bounce. City have been rather toothless. I know they've had issues up front and injuries to their number 9s and target men have meant that they haven't been as potent as we know them to be. But let's break down that game. How do you see that playing out? I want to start with you, Dej.
Oh, it's a tricky one to call. I mean, after every international break, you don't know what's going to happen. But one thing you can say is that Tottenham have a clean bill of health. I think it's only Matt Doherty that's missing with coronavirus, and Lamella's a bit touch and go. So they're probably the team in the Prem that I would say are the most happy with their playing situation in terms of players being available. Obviously, Manchester City, Sergio Aguero is a bit touch and go, and I know Raheem Sterling, obviously he missed the internationals, so I expect him to be back in the fold. But it's a tricky one because Man City, for me, they're on a bit of a downward trajectory. I know Pep signed his new contract, and that was a decision that baffled me, to be honest. But I would think Tottenham are the favourites going into this. I would say they're probably in the better moment. They're a team that look comfortable with their situations in terms of tactically and from a personnel wise. So I think Tottenham will probably nick the 3 points, similar to what they done last season when they beat Manchester City at their new stadium.
And Dot, do you share that same belief and opinion? Do you also see Tottenham taking 3 points from that fixture?
I want to scroll back a bit. I think you were a bit harsh calling Man City toothless this season. Ferran Torres on international duty scored a hat-trick against Germany. He had a world-class performance, looked really bright, looked really good, and he's also looked good in the Man City shirt. I think we know Man City are not at their flowing best, but I think after this international break, we'll see them pick up more consistent form, and I think the quality will start to shine through. As for the game,
domestically, they have been toothless though, Doc. Only 2 games have they scored more than 1 goal. Obviously, that battering against Leicester, and obviously away at Wolves. In the other league games, they haven't scored more than 1. So you would have to say they have been a bit shot shy.
Yeah, but it's difficult when teams just, all the teams in the Premier League, in the bottom half are just playing 3 at the back, where they drop into a low block and they make it very difficult to break down with 5 at the back. And of course, you're going to miss something when you're not playing with our out-and-out striker. Aguero's had, nasty niggles this season. Gabriel Jesus, he's had a few injury problems. So they haven't had that focal point to play up front. So I think once Jesus or Aguero can string a run of games, we're going to see Man City scoring goals again.
And just on that point, I know you obviously mentioned that City have been without both Jesus and Aguero for large parts of the season so far. But when we look at the other players and key players in that team, like Kevin De Bruyne, for example, he seems and looks a bit jaded, and he's not sort of reached the heights that of expectation that we all know that he can reach. I mean, missing a penalty the other day, that's I mean, it's occasions like that remind you that he's human. Do you know what I mean?
That's one for the collector's item, isn't it?
100%. Go on.
I think, just to go back to that penalty miss, I think that just shows the magnitude of that game and how much pressure is on the 2 teams when they play each other. Because when you scroll back to the Riyad Mahrez penalty and this penalty, both of them hit it completely off target. And that was actually the last penalty that was struck off target in the Premier League was Mahrez, and now De Bruyne against Liverpool. So that's interesting. But I said it on 3 in the Midfield podcast that Man City have become predictable. And that's why I think Leroy Sané was so important, because he just offered them that dynamic wing wizardry to just beat players and cross the ball and just be different. And I think Bernardo Silva has been underwhelming recently. And I think if he's not playing at his best, Man City don't really have anyone else that's a real creator. I know they got Riyad Mahrez on the right wing that, likes to cut inside and create play. But I think the problem with Man City is that now everything goes to De Bruyne. If you nullify De Bruyne or just keep 2 players around the space he likes to maneuver, it's really easy to just bank up and stop Man City from penetrating the lines. And I think that's been the problem for them this season.
And obviously adding to that, obviously David Silva going to Real Sociedad, that hasn't helped the situation. And I've been a bit perplexed by Manchester City's recruitment. Obviously Nathan Ake, Ferran Torres, he's a bright young prospect. But in terms of those creative areas, I was a bit shocked and surprised not to see anyone come in. But I think that just shows that they've got huge stocks in Phil Foden, who I believe he's going to be, a real generational talent. We saw, his displays for England. He looks very competent, very technically secure, creative. And I'm sure in the next few games, we're going to see much more of him. But as Dot said, they're very, very predictable right now. And Pep's going to have to find the solutions, because they're getting players that are injured. Gabriel Jesus, Sergio Aguero. And for me, this is Sergio Aguero's last season at prime level. I think after this, we're going to start to see him really drop off. And they're probably going to need to sign another striker, because he's one of those players, if he's not scoring goals, he's a bit of a baggage to the team. He's not like a Harry Kane that can maybe drop in, create. He's sort of like, so I think they're struggling there. So, man, I think this game, I think Tottenham will win it, as I said before.
Very quickly, just on Man City, last point. I think I'm scrolling through the comments and I'm seeing someone mention Foden to be that sort of spark. But the thing is about Foden is that I don't see him as a centre midfielder. I see him as more as a final third player. And why David Silva was so important and good for this team is because he will literally get the ball in centre midfield and just move it quickly. He knows where that left back is, or he knows how to find Kevin De Bruyne in space. Whereas Foden and Bernardo Silva, for me, they're more final third players. So they were David Silva 10 years ago.
Yeah, but I think Foden can definitely drop into midfield, snarl and pass plays and play it vertically.
But the thing is, I agree. But the thing is, David Silva had a more controlled element to his game where he doesn't need to drop a shoulder and beat three man and go forward. Sometimes it's just about progressing the play sidewards or, you know, just playing a little dink ball through the lines. And I think that's what David Silva done very well. And I think that now that that's gone, it's very hard to replace.
And obviously, Phil Foden is still very, very young. We can't forget. And that's probably a string to his bow that will probably develop later on. So, yeah.
I just want to bring in a comment here now by one of the viewers, Daniel Ogun. He mentions they put so much emphasis on improving their defense and forgot to add real quality going forward. The reason why I want to highlight that comment from Daniel and tie it back to a comment that you made a little earlier, Dej, when you were talking about how shocked you were at their Man City's approach in this transfer window. Now, obviously, there were certain constraints with regard to the current global pandemic and the impact that that's had on finances and whatnot. But then you also use the same phrase in terms of being shocked when you spoke about the fact that Pep decided to sign a 2-year extension. So let's delve into that a bit more, right? So looking at it from his perspective, how do you see that? Why do you think he decided to stay on for another 2 years? Do you feel like it? You know, well, I'm assuming from my perspective that maybe off the field he might have had a chinwag with old Al Mubarak, who you know, confirmed
promised him Liam Messi.
Exactly, promised him all the riches in the world to stay and all the signings and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, give us your point of view and perspective on that.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I was a bit shocked, and I actually watched Pep's press conference today, and he sort of said he signed a new contract because of how the club reacted to the whole pandemic. They didn't sack any members of staff. They didn't place anyone on furlough. They continued to pay all the players their bonuses and stuff like that. He didn't actually mention sporting reasons. And obviously, as I've mentioned several times, I think in managerial projects, you hit your peak and you go down. And this Manchester City team have hit their peak, in my opinion. And when you look at Pep notoriously, he spends these 3 years, I think it was 3 years at Bayern Munich, 4 years at Barcelona. Then he leaves because he's so intense. The amount of information that he passes on to his players, I think it was David Alaba said that, yeah, it's like you're in university, it's so consuming, you know. So that's why I was a bit shocked that he actually extended his stay. And his main holy grail is the Champions League. That's what he needs to win. People have said that, oh, you know, he hasn't really done anything at City. Everything that he's done, it's been done before. But I disagree to an extent because it's the manner. He achieved excellence. I think it was that 2018-19 season, beating Watford 6-0 in the final, obviously dominating the league. You know, these are things that have never really been seen before. So I just think when you look at the squad, it looks lethargic. It looks tired. He looks tired. When you see him on the touchline sometimes. Like, no, honestly, press conference is like, if you lose a game, his body language doesn't seem to really know what to do. And the one thing with Pep Guardiola, I would say, is when you watch his team, he always looks like he has an element of control. When they step onto the pitch, you know, yeah, they're going to dominate. They're going to bop this team off the park. Of now, he sort of looks like, okay, I'm watching my team play, but I don't know what's going to happen. And that's why I think it's changed. So I was very, very shocked. I thought next summer probably marked the perfect time for, you know, Manchester City and Pep to split ways. Not because he's a bad manager, but because I think this team needs new information and new blood. That's just my view.
My final question on City to you, Dot. Are you confident that Pep can oversee a successful rebuild at City?
It's funny because I think Pep signed this contract because he feels that his team right now are not good enough to win the league this season. That's my honest opinion on the situation. In terms of rebuilding, we've never seen Pep Guardiola rebuild a team, so I can't answer that question. And going off previous recruitment, I have to say I'm not sure, because Man City has spent millions of pounds over the last 2-3 years and haven't really seen any improvement in the team. Their best players are still their oldest players, so I don't know. We have to wait and see. I can't answer the question.
Fair play. And on the flip side, given the fact that we are talking about the Spurs versus City game this weekend, we've spoken an awful lot about City and not too much about Spurs. So on the flip side,
there's no agenda from me.
That's right.
Fresh. I didn't even clock. Yeah.
So on the flip side, right? Jose has been at Spurs now for, I think, coming up to a year.
A year today,
in fact, timing. So how do we assess his time at Spurs to date, Dej?
It's been a tricky one. Obviously, he started against West Ham away, and we saw them win 3-2. And before he came in, people were sort of saying the appointment, you're replacing Pochettino with yesterday's man, sort of thing. So he came in when people were saying, you know what, Jose's finished. How is this going to work between him and Daniel Levy, sort of thing? But I think Jose Mourinho always needed that preseason, and he always needed to be backed, just the same way Pochettino needed to be backed. But one thing I will say is that he's done what he could with the resources that have been available to him. Obviously, there was a stage last season where they just had injuries. Kane was injured. Son was injured. And I think after the Leipzig game, he sort of said, you know what, I need preseason to start now. And this was like 3 quarters, towards the end of the season. So what I would say this season, I think it started very well. But it's to be expected. Tottenham have got good players, man. Let's be real. They've got a decent squad. And I think what's helped Jose is that he's settled on a team now. Obviously, you've got Højbjerg in the middle, Sissoko, and Ndombele. Last season, there was that whole
revelation this season.
There was that whole saga of, what's happening to Ndombele? He's not playing. Why ain't Jose playing him? Now he seems to have found some form. And he's that one midfield in that team that he's unpredictable. Like, he provides that spark. And that's what Tottenham needs. So, and obviously, owing to the fact that Gareth Bale is back now. So when you look at that front three, Bale, Son, Kane, that's a strike force that really sends shivers down defenders' spine. So I think it's too early to say what he's done. I think he's done a job that should have been expected of him. He picked up the team when they were 14th. They finished in Europa League positions, and obviously they're going well in that. So I think it's a steady start to his reign. That's my verdict.
You have some people that say that the front three of Kane, Son, and Bale is up there with the best front threes in the world. And I think it's universally accepted at present that the best front three currently in world football is obviously the front three of Liverpool with Firmino, Salah, and Mane. What in terms of comparisons between that front three and Spurs's, Nino, what do you feel is the difference? Do you feel like arguably it's as good a front three as Liverpool's?
No, of course not. Gareth Bale, how much does he have left? He's a name. He's done it in the past, previously world-class, but I'm not sure he's still world-class. I don't think he is, personally. We don't know how much he has left physically. We don't know how much he has left mentally. As for the other two, I think they're terrific players. Harry Kane, in my opinion, I've always said it, the best striker in the Premier League. Son, incredible player, but we need Son to deliver consistently. And what takes a player from being a top player to a world-class player is delivering on a weekly basis. And for far too long, I've seen Son have great moments and great form for 6 games, then go missing for 5 games. And I think for him to go to that next level, he needs a 20-goal Premier League season. And I think we're going to see it this season.
Okay. That's an interesting one. I guess we've got to watch this space, both, to your points, both on Son and his consistency, and also in terms of what Gareth Bale has left. I'm sure it's very interesting to see when they are all sort of fit and firing. I know Spurs have got Arsenal in the next few weeks, and I'm absolutely sure everyone's going to be fit and ready for that game. So
the next few games are going to be the real. They've got Liverpool, they've got Man City, Chelsea, Palace away. I think after these cluster of games, we're going to really see where Spurs are at. Because coming to this point, they've probably had a kind fixture running, if you can call it that. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay. Cool. We're going to move on to dissect the next game. Just another reminder, if you've not yet liked this video, please hit the button down there, man. Also, if you're not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe and sign up for all the notifications so you're always notified when we go live on YouTube. If you're not following us on Twitter yet, it's at podcast_TBG. And also on Instagram at pod_TBG. And you can listen to all of our episodes with all of our special guests on Spotify. And just a heads up that we've got some really, really good interviews in the way and in the pipeline as well. So make sure you don't miss out on any of those things. But guys, please make sure you do hit the like button. All right.
Big up Daps as well.
Big up Daps.
Yeah, big up Daps. Cool. All right. Going into the next game. Liverpool are hosting Leicester at Anfield, and honestly, at this present moment in time, it really feels, certainly in terms of injuries, it feels like a situation of when it rains, it pours for Liverpool, with so many key first team players out with some sort of injury or some sort of illness. I think you guys will have been buoyed by the fact that I think both Fabinho and Thiago and Alisson also have returned to training. But of course, you've got key injuries to Virgil van Dijk, Joe Gomez, Trent, Henderson, Salah, Matip. So I guess what my question would be to you, Dej, is how do you see Klopp lining up the team on Sunday? You guys play?
Yeah.
How do you see him lining up the team? What would you say the starting 11 is going to be?
That's anyone's guess, man, because we don't know which players are available. Some are doubts. Obviously, we know the absentees. Obviously, Van Dijk, Gomez. I think Klopp confirmed today that Trent and Henderson are out as well, which is a hammer blow to our hopes. So if I was to guess, I think obviously Alisson will be in goal. Robertson was even a doubt for one of Scotland's game as well, but he came through that. So I think Robertson will start left back. Right back, I have to say Milner, Nico Williams. But I think because of the game, this is a game that requires experience. And Nico Williams has done very, very well, but he's a young player. And I don't think Klopp will throw him into this sort of game. And obviously Joel Matip, he's someone that's not really dependable. When he plays, he's good, but the availability is an issue, So I think he will start. And beside him, it could be Phillips, it could be Williams. You think he'll start?
He'll be ready. They'll have a last-minute fitness test. They'll play.
I think it'll be Fabinho or Williams. Then obviously when you get into the middle, I think Klopp, he's got more attackers than defenders. I think this game he's probably going to have to go match fire with fire. So I think we'll see. Obviously, Salah can't play as well because of his positive COVID test. So it's all formulas and equations. But I'll probably say the front three will obviously be Mane, Firmino, Jota. And don't be surprised to see Shaqiri come in. And obviously in the middle, the two midfield positions, I think will be Genie and running out of players,
do you think Thiago starts? Or
no.
Is it too?
You think Thiago's going to start?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
If he's fit to be on the bench, I think he will start personally.
It's a tricky one to call.
I know he had a nasty tackle, but I think he seems to have recovered.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. Obviously, you got Curtis Jones. Ox has returned back to training. Yeah, I'm not sure. And I think that shows you everything you need to know about Liverpool. Before last season, we would know Liverpool starting 11 like clockwork. We were a well-oiled machine, but now it's sort of like putting the components together. So, yeah, I'm not sure who's going to start.
And do you think that Diogo Jota will start on the right then, Dot?
No, I don't. I think Mane will start from the right. Jota will play from the left, and Firmino will start up front. I think the midfield three will be Wijnaldum, Keita, Curtis Jones / Thiago. I think that's what we will do in the midfield three. I think Widge and Keita will 100% start.
Big game for Keita.
Yeah, touch and go whether Thiago is going to be fit enough to start. If not, I think we will go with Curtis Jones in the middle. Right back, I think Milner will play, and then the rest picks itself, as Dej mentioned. But I think it's an interesting game because Liverpool are going for an all-time record at Anfield, and I think this is the best opportunity a good team is going to get to beat Liverpool. And I think Leicester will be fancying their chances. But I think if we get the team out that we mentioned, I think we'll have too much for Leicester personally.
But let's not forget, when we look at Leicester's credentials this season, go into the Emirates, spanking, Manchester City. And Brendan Rodgers, we've had him on our platform. He's a showman. He wants to upset the apple cart. He wants to break records. He revels in that limelight. So I think he'll be telling his players that, listen, like Liverpool is a case of the walking wounded. Like we can do some damage here, kind of thing, innit? So it's a game that I'm a bit wary of. I'm not gonna lie. I think Leicester are a real live threat, especially on that counter attack. They've got the tools to trouble us, especially Jamie Vardy. Harvey Barnes, he's a very direct runner. He likes to break those lines. Tielemans is in a bit of form as well. So, yeah, man, they're a good side. This is a live game. This ain't going to be a sort of blowout. Could even be a draw, So, yeah.
It could be a Leicester win. It could be anything. Like, actually a very, very tough game. And Leicester, they're perfectly set up to do damage away from home. So it's going to be
Shawnee even makes a great point. Leicester have won every single game away this season. And it hasn't been gimmies. It hasn't been gimmies.
It has to come to an end at one point, Dej. And
of course. As Liverpool fans, we're hoping it comes as an end, on Sunday. But it's a good game.
So we've obviously spoken at length about the notable absentees from the Liverpool squad. And one of you guys mentioned it yourselves when you said that you've got more attackers available than defenders. So what I really wanted to do was highlight the defense and get your thoughts on, how you guys feel, how confident you are in your back line going into that game. Particularly when you have someone like Jamie Vardy, who's red hot on form and who will have used the international break to rest, recoup, and will be very, very fresh going into that game. How are you guys feeling about your defense and how you'd be able to cope with Vardy? Like you mentioned, the directness of Harvey Barnes, Yuri Tielemans, Cengiz Under, who
coming off the bench
for Vardy in the last game. How do you feel about that?
I do feel that people are using a lot of hyperbole when it comes to, Liverpool's defensive issues in terms of a tactical standpoint. Because when you look at the defense, the 7-goal defeat against Aston Villa kind of skews the statistics because obviously almost half of our goals came in that one game. So I think when you look at it as a whole, without Van Dijk, I think we've coped pretty well. But any team coming up against Liverpool are going to fancy their chances because they don't see Van Dijk on that team sheet. So Jamie Vardy, he's going to, almost try and bully the weaker centre-back, and he's just going to keep running in behind in that channel. And once Vardy gets in behind, it's pretty much a goal.
Yeah, I'm not confident. I think it's all right playing, a makeshift defence against a Sheffield United. But this Liverpool team is going to be under stress and under pressure in this game. There's going to be moments where, it might get a bit, techie, and especially in defense, it's all about relationships. And obviously not knowing who's your number one centre-back is a problem because we thought Joe Gomez was going to come in and someone will be partnering him. Now he's out. Now you've got Matip and he's not reliable. Then you've got youngsters. You've got Williams, obviously, who's come out of obscurity. He's playing a lot of games. You've got Nat Phillips. it's a bit of a problem. I'm not gonna lie. And as we've mentioned already, a team like Leicester, Brendan Rodgers is gonna prime them to hit that counter attack. And obviously Matip not playing consistently, you know, we might see a bit of tread on the tire because he's going to be worked in those channels. Vardy's going to, you know, keep running all game long. As you mentioned, he's going to be primed, fit and ready. Matip is sort of being patched up to play, you know, and Vardy's a player notoriously over the years. Anytime we've played him, he's had our number running in those channels. I remember that goal against Mignolet when he loved it. Like, so it's a very, very live game. Very, very live game.
By the way, Yusuf, we do chat on the championship, so keep, subscribe to the content because that's something that we definitely talk about. We love the championship here.
100%. Also, before we move into the next game, just a shout out to Dapo, and I think you should all follow his advice. If you've not yet hit the like button, please, guys, hit the like button. If you're in here listening to the content, listening to us chat, then you might as well. It's not going to cost you anything. Please hit the like button. If you're not yet subscribed, subscribe, and also make sure you're signed up for the notifications. So whenever we go live, you're notified. If you're not following us on Twitter, it's at podcast_TBG. And you can follow us on Instagram as well at pod_TBG and listen to all of our interviews with our special guests also on Spotify. So going into the next game, Leeds are hosting Arsenal at Ellen Road. I mean, both teams are coming into this game off the back of very heavy defeats. Obviously, Leeds lost 4-1 away at Palace and Arsenal 3-0 at home to Villa. I guess my first question to you guys, and coming to you, Dot, on this, who would you say is more damaged by the previous result out of Leeds and Arsenal going to this game?
Oh, definitely Arsenal. Leeds are a team that have just been promoted. I mean, yes, Marcelo Bielsa, frantic, free-flowing, attacking football, but losing to Crystal Palace 4-1 can happen. Crystal Palace are a better team than Leeds. They may not be coached better, but they are a better team player for player. So definitely Arsenal. That Aston Villa defeat was tragic. It was a terrible performance. I don't think any player can hold their head up high. And on Sunday, I back Leeds to win the match, actually. I think they will get a result against Arsenal. They've had that big boost now that Calvin Phillips is, back in full training. A senior source actually told us exclusively 48 hours ago that he stepped up his fitness and he was looking so sharp in training. He was doing more work than anyone else on the training pitch and he looked fitter than anyone else on the training pitch. So I expect him to play against Arsenal. It's going to be a good game. I think Leeds are going to, set up the way they usually set up, aggressive on the front foot, marking man for man. And I think the only way Arsenal win this game, I think they have to score early. I think they really need to score early and calm the Leeds hype down. But if not, I see Leeds actually taking something from this game, to be honest.
And Dej, coming to you now. Obviously, Arsenal are without their preferred centre midfield pairing in Thomas Partey and Mohamed Elneny due to injury. So how best does Arteta navigate this game in terms of the balance in midfield? What happens? How do you see that battle playing out?
I think this game for Arsenal is going to be about control. I think what we've seen from Leeds so far this season, they just want to go hammer and tongs. They're relentless. They just keep running. So I think Arsenal need to fortify that middle, whether it's going to be Ceballos that comes in for that extra control or extra legs in the middle to try and navigate them, because I think Leeds' main Achilles heel is when you overload them centrally. Like we've all seen that Calvin Phillips position where he plays, he picks up the ball deep. And, sometimes you can just overwhelm him. Like that will happen once or twice this season where you nick the ball off him and you get in a goal. We've seen that already this season. I think against Leicester.
Last season, a few times.
Cardiff. I remember again Cardiff away where he lost the ball. So I think that's going to be Arsenal's keys to victories, pressing high. But the thing is, Leeds are very, very energetic and they've been coached longer in this system than Arsenal have been. And obviously, we've all seen the rumours that come out between, David Luiz and a certain Danny Ceballos as well. So I'm not sure if that will have any bearing on Mikel Arteta's team selection. But I think Arsenal will actually win it. I think Leeds they're like any typical promotion team. They're going to have their peaks and troughs in the season. And I think right now they're on a run of defeat. So if Arsenal don't win this game, I think there should be a few eyebrows, because man for man, Arsenal are a much better team than Leeds. When you look at Leeds' team, who do you say, wow, he's a baller? It's just that they're being coached at a very, very high level, and their players are given their optimum. It's sort of like Chris Wilder last season with Sheffield United. Average players being coached to perform to the best of their ability.
Absolutely. So final question on this one before we move on. Arsenal's next 3 fixtures are Leeds, Wolves and Spurs. And certain Arsenal fans already have question marks against Mikel Arteta's approach. I suppose the question I want to ask, and I'll start with you, Dot, on this one, is if let's say Arsenal lose or don't take, I'd say 7 points from the next possible 9. Do you think it's fair to have question marks against Arteta's role?
Not really. Tough games. 7 points, that's a lot of points in 3 big games. I think if he doesn't get 4 points, then you can say, okay, this is looking a bit worrying. The form is not good. The results are not picking up.
But it's Leeds, Wolves and Spurs. And like Dej said, arguably, Arsenal have got better teams than
Leeds away is a tough game. We saw Manchester City, they almost got embroiled in a basketball match against just to throw back to the Crystal Palace Leeds match, I was at the game and literally I had neck pain after because I was just so that game is just going to be a basketball match. Who can score the most goals? And Leeds, like, they're coached well. They can, they can turn up and have a good performance and win a game of football against a big team. And we saw it last season in the FA Cup, if I'm not mistaken. In the first 45 minutes, they absolutely played Arsenal off the park. So they have that in them. Wolves, we all know that Wolves is a difficult game. They counter-attack well. They got pace on the counter-attack. They're robust defensively. So that's always going to be a difficult game. And then you've got a North London derby, which is a tough game. So I don't think it's fair to say if Arsenal don't get 7 points, Arteta's job needs to be in question. I think look at it on a game-to-game basis. If that performance level is there, I think Arsenal fans will accept 4 points or 3 points. But if the performance level is low, that's when you can say, what direction are we going in?
Yeah, I think football fans are fickle as well. I'm not going to lie. When Arsenal made the appointment of Arteta, everyone knew it's going to be a long process. He's got the foundations in place. He's got an identity. He's got his non-negotiables. Obviously, we spoke to Joe Willock on our podcast, and he told us what those non-negotiables were. So, give the man time. You've just signed Thomas Partey. Form is going to fluctuate. Arteta needs another season or 2 before he can challenge. This season's about challenging for the top 4. Arsenal are on course to do that. The season's very, very young. So I think people questioning Arteta is very, very premature. But I think there's always people within a fan base that, want to cry over spoilt milk, So it's just a case of riding those storms. And those emerging clubs are Arsenal, Chelsea. They're going to be having these peaks and troughs throughout the season, but it's about getting that top 4.
And just to scroll back, because I was doing an experiment the other day, and go back to Aston Villa versus Arsenal. And I counted at least 4 Aston Villa players that get into that Arsenal team. Martinez, I think he's a better goalkeeper than Leno. Tyrone Mings, he's looking like a half-decent defender now. So I'll put him in one of the centre-back positions. Jack Grealish will be Arsenal's best player. Douglas Luiz, I potentially think he's a Fernandinho replacement at Man City. That's how good I rate him. Ross Barkley, you know what you're getting from him. He's a maverick. He's capable of producing special moments. And Ollie Watkins, I'm having him over Lacazette. So 5 of those Aston Villa players get into the Arsenal team. And that's the level that Arsenal are at the moment. It's a long fix. The quality is not there.
Fair play. Just in the interest of time, we're gonna move on. Of course, I know this is definitely a game and a topic that we can spend a bit more time on. But we're going to move on to United and West Brom. And obviously United are going to be hosting them at Old Trafford. Going into the Slaven Bilic already has spoken glowingly about this fixture, and he's really up for it.
I thought that's ain't having Douglas Luiz, isn't it?
He's a baller. What?
Yeah, I think Douglas,
he's not better than Partey, but Douglas Luiz is a baller.
I think Douglas Luiz gets a move to a team the table very, very soon. Watch his space. But anyway, West Brom have won 3 out of 5 of their most recent visits to Old Trafford, and they've only lost once. So they're buoyed by the previous results, and of course will go into the game thinking that they can nick something there, especially because of the fact that United's form has been hot and cold. I think Ollie managed to save his skin with that win against Everton before the international break. But I mean, you know, what do you guys feel? How do you guys see that game going? Dej, let's kick off with you. What do you think the outcome of that game is going to be?
This is simply a must-win game for Ollie. Anything less, then he's in a big trouble. As you mentioned, they haven't won any home games this season. Obviously, losing at home to Palace, you know, Tottenham. You know, they had a bit of strange results. So this has to be the game where they kickstart their season. And if they could pick a team out of a hat to play, it'll be West Brom. You know, they're devoid of confidence. You know, the camp is very, you know, it's lacking quality. Let's be honest. Like, they haven't signed well. I think they signed the old Ivanovic. You know, they've got Carlem Grant up front, who's a very, very good striker. He's done well in the championship, but obviously making that jump, it's different gravy. And when you look centrally, obviously they've got Jake Livermore. Grady Diangana is a good player. And I was actually speaking to one of the agents of one of the players at West Brom, and it's like, you know, they need help. Like, Slaven Bilic is very, very unimpressed by the activity, you know, throughout the window. He felt he needed much more replacements, and the board haven't backed him. It's almost like they're saving their coins and say, you know what, we're going to bank, you know, that parachute money and wait and see how this pandemic unfolds. So I think Manchester United have to win, and they will win, you know. And, you know, the players, Pogba obviously went international duty, saying that, yeah, he feels that it's a vibe when he plays for France. But obviously Manchester United, and even speaking to some of the people around some of the players at Manchester United, they're saying that it's not an elite environment. Obviously, Ollie's not a top coach, you know, and you can see that in the way Manchester United play. There's no real patterns of play. Under Arteta, we can see that they're working towards something. But with Manchester United, it seems like you're taking on a game-to-game basis. It's like Ollie's got 9 lives. That when he needs to win, he pulls out a win. But this style of football for me is not sustainable. But against West Brom, I think Manchester United would definitely take the 3 points, and I think they'll do it in style.
And do you have any thoughts to add to that, Dot? I always find interesting when Ollie comes into the discussion and the term top coach is used to describe him. Is it that he's not a top coach, or he's just an inexperienced coach?
I don't think he's inexperienced, because he's had years at Mulder, he was at Cardiff, maybe inexperienced at the top level. But for me, he's an experienced coach. I just don't think he's good enough to make that top level. If, you know, it was at a mid-table club, no one will be talking about him. No one will say he's a bad manager. You'll say he's a steady, decent manager. But to get Man United back to the glory days, he's not the man. Come on.
Yeah, he's someone that just feel-good factor.
Stopgap. And
out you go. Because the way I look at Ollie, if he leaves Manchester United, are there going to be any other Premier League clubs in for his services? And honestly speaking, like, I don't think so. And I think that tells the story.
Fair play. I'm guessing no more needs to be on that one. I think we're all in agreement that it should be a comfortable victory for United. Okay, and then moving on to Newcastle and Chelsea. So Newcastle are going to be hosting them at St James's Park. Chelsea have won their last 4 games in all competitions, and they've scored 14 goals and conceded just once. The place that I actually wanted to start off at, so I know I just mentioned there about how free scoring they've been, but I wanted to rewind back to a few weeks ago when we were doing sort of the daily shows with Sky Sports within a transfer window, and there was a particular episode that we did when we were looking at signings of goalkeepers, and I think it was you, Dej, that was speaking about Eduard Mendy, and you were basically forecasting what kind of impact he'd have to the Chelsea team.
Yeah,
I guess the first thing I want to ask is, of course, it's early days. We've got the whole season ahead of us, but what is your assessment of Eduard Mendy in the the little time that he's been here at Chelsea in the Premier League? What would your early assessment be?
He's been a steady pair of hands, and that's exactly what Chelsea have needed. Obviously, Kepa, his confidence was shot to bits. You started to feel sorry for him at a stage, the mistakes he was making. I remember the game against Liverpool. But Eduard Mendy, he's coming. He just does the basic well. He's not a great kicker. He's very commanding from crosses. He finds his teammates. And I think, as you mentioned before, I was saying on Sky that I think it was going to be good for him to have 2 fellow French speakers. Obviously, he's got Kurt Zouma and Thiago Silva. And that trident seemed to have formed a relationship. And for any team, when you've got a bad keeper, that just spreads through the rest of the team. You can see it. But since he's come in, he's just calm. Even the way he just goes about his business, he doesn't look spectacular. He just looks like a normal goalkeeper. And that's spread throughout the rest of the team because they know if they score goals, they've got a keeper that can keep a clean sheet. And yeah, I think he's been a very, very solid signing. I think people have maybe overrated it a bit, saying that, he's the best thing since sliced bread and stuff like that. I wouldn't go that far, but he's very, very competent. And he just keeps the ball out of the net and does the basics well, which is what they need. And obviously, Frank Lampard came out and said, he's very low maintenance. He wants to learn. And obviously, I read that Petr Cech spent like 18 months, sourcing a goalkeeper, and he was at the top of the list. And yeah, it seems to be going well so far.
I don't want to rain on Mendy's parade, but I think any goalkeeper replacing Kepa, you're in a win-win situation because you're going to be better than Kepa. It's just as simple as that. Kepa couldn't do the bread and butter. He couldn't, save a shot for his life. And I feel Mendy has just done the basics well, which I expect from any goalkeeper. And yes, he's looked commanding. He's made some good saves. I recall the Man United game. He looked good. Very well done, standout performance. But there's going to be so many more tests along the line that's really going to see what this goalkeeper is about.
Okay. And the next question I had was to ask you guys on your view about Hakim Ziyech. So obviously,
I'll quickly answer the Zuma question because we've got Eddie 89. Shout out.
Okay,
Ed.
cool.
I think with Zuma, he's not. I think when you have Zuma as your main centre back, it puts a cap on what you can achieve. I don't think you can win a Premier League with Zuma at centre back because he has that massive mistake in him, and we saw it. Who was it against? Southampton, where under no pressure passes the ball back, bang, Southampton back in the game. I don't think Zuma is a player that can lead a team to a title, in my opinion.
Even if he's paired with a top centre half, like alongside him, like the likes of Thiago Silva, for example.
The thing is about Thiago Silva is how available is he going to be throughout the season? Yes, it's been nice. He's been fit every week, but he's not going to be able to play every single game this season. And I think Chelsea are still going to get tougher tests along the season. I think they've had a nice kind run into, settle Mendy in, settle Thiago Silva in. But let's see when they're playing the Manchester Cities of this world, or the Liverpools, or the Leicesters, or the Wolves.
Even Thiago came out and said that he's been having headaches due to, like, obviously heading the ball and the intensity of the Premier League. And obviously he's going to have his minutes managed. But as Dot said, Zuma, he's like a type B centre-back. Zuma alongside like a Van Dijk, you'll be confident. But him being your main centre-back, I'm not sure. And obviously Antonio Rudiger, he's still in the fold. It baffles me that he hasn't had more involvement in the team, because I think he's decent. Yes, he's form, plateaued, but I still think that there's a top centre-back in there, like if he can get games going.
Absolutely. So the point that I was going to raise about Hakim Ziyech is that he's been in fine form of late. His last two Premier League games, he's contributed in terms of both assists and goals. And then away on the international break, he scored 3 times for Morocco. So I guess my question about Ziyech is he the main man to watch in that game against Newcastle as a part A? And on a wider scale, do we feel that Frank Lampard knows his best 11?
I think with Ziyech, he's probably the signing that got forgotten about. Everyone's talking about Werner. Everyone's talking about Havertz, Chilwell, and obviously because he got injured in that friendly, he sort of fell to the back benches. But since he's come back, since he's been reintegrated into that fold, I mean, he's a classy operator. I mean, like, left footers, when you got that tech, there's just something special about it.
Yeah.
And he's got that in abundance. He can score, he can assist, he can take free kicks, and he's starting to be that go-to player. Like when Chelsea players have the ball, give it to Ziyech, give it to him. Before in the first games, it was give it to Havertz, and obviously that wasn't quite as successful. But I think Ziyech is. Why are you laughing? No, honestly, Ziyech is a top classy operator, man.
And so coming to you, Dot. Of course, Lampard has a lot of creative players at his disposal. You've got Pulisic, who of course is injured, but again, if you think back to how he ended last season, absolute,
flying,
absolutely class performances. You've got now Kai Havertz that's coming. You've got Ziyech. You've got Callum Hudson-Odoi. You've got Mason Mount. So do you think Lampard knows what his best starting 11 is at present, or do you think it's going to take him a bit more time to
I think it's going to take him a bit more time. I don't think he really knows. I think he knows his wingers. I think it's Pulisic and Ziyech. I think that's nailed on. I think Havertz has to play just because of the big price tag. There's pressure on him to deliver. So I think Lampard will always play him, even though for me, I don't think he's someone that should be starting every week at the moment. But I think he will play. I think Timo Werner's an interesting one because he was actually out of the team before the international break, but Pulisic got injured in the warm-up. So Werner replaced Pulisic, but he seems to fancy Abraham right now. And from my understanding, Lampard really likes Abraham and he wants him to be a success. He wants him to do well. So I think he's around that first team. I'm not sure he's the main striker, maybe just behind Werner at the moment. Conte is always going to play. I think the back four is settled with Reece James at right back, Ben Chilwell, who I think is an excellent signing at left back, and then Zuma and Thiago Silva. So I think there's still maybe 3 or 4 positions that he needs to nail down, but I think he's got 7 or 8 of his players, set right now.
Okay, good to know. And so, I mean, again, for that game, I'm guessing that we're in universal agreement that Chelsea should have too much for Newcastle, even though they're playing away from home.
I'm not sure. I think that's a tough game. Newcastle are one of those teams that can just shock you. They're under siege all game, one shot on target, but somehow they can get a 1-0 win. They're that kind of team. So I'm not... If I had to predict that game, I'm not going to say it's a routine Chelsea win. I think Chelsea may pip it, but it's going to be a tight game. And
notoriously, Chelsea have it difficult when they go away to Newcastle. I remember under Jose Mourinho, that was like a ground that he couldn't get a win at. So I think it'll be a tough game, but I think Chelsea will get the win.
Okay, sweet. Okay, just in the interest of time, we're gonna just really, really quickly whiz through the remaining fixtures, and I'm gonna ask you guys to give your predictions. Before we do that, I'm just gonna remind all of you that are listening to us at the moment, and if you've not yet hit the like button, please, guys, show your support by hitting the like button. It's not gonna cost you anything, but it goes a long way to helping us build our platform. You know how these algorithms and whatnot work on YouTube to help us spread the content to new ears and new eyes. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. Sign up for all the notifications so you're aware of when we go live. If you're not following us on Twitter yet, it's at podcast_TBG, and on Instagram at pod_TBG. And you can listen to all of our episodes with our special guests on Spotify. And just a heads up, you guys, make sure you keep it locked, you stay tuned, because we've got some really, really good content coming up, some really good and interesting interviews, and we don't want you guys to miss it. So make sure you're subscribed on all of the platforms, and make sure also whenever we got content coming out, live streams and so on and so forth, just share it amongst your friends, your group chats. Everyone's in at least one group chat with loads of other people and football fans and whatnot. So please just help us to spread the word of TBG by sharing it with your work colleagues, your friends, so on and so forth. Okay. So, good question there by Ahmad Arshad. I think I read an article earlier today which was speaking about who'd wanting potentially to leave in January to secure first team football ahead of the next Euros. Of course, as well, he's only 8 goals away from being France's all-time goal scorer. So he, of course, will have that in mind and will want to play as regularly as possible to increase his chances of being selected for that France squad. They're, of course, absolutely littered with players. I mean, I'm not too sure. Well, going forward, they've got a decent options, but certainly in defence and midfield, they are absolutely littered with options, man. So definitely one to watch out for. Let's kick things off with Fulham hosting Everton at Craven Cottage. Dej, what are your thoughts on that game?
Obviously Everton 3 defeats in a row, so their form is plateaued. I remember they started off the season very well, and people were saying, you know what, can Everton maybe win the Premier League? But I think everyone knew that was very premature. But on the other hand, you got Fulham, who have found life a bit difficult since they've come back up. And I know Scott Parker is trying to keep the lads positive, and in my opinion, they had a decent transfer window. I speak to a few of the players in that camp, and they've got positive words to say about Scott Parker. Like, he's a player's manager, obviously playing the game. He inspires confidence. He doesn't get too high with the highs and too low with the lows. So it's a home game for Fulham. They should be taking something out of this game, but I think Everton, with the inclusion of Richarlison, like, he's key for how Everton play, and Alan's going to be back. So I think Everton would just pip it, maybe 2-1.
Okay.
Cool. Very quickly, just my quick note on that game. I just want to go back to the transfer window, and Budge was, quick to say on Sky Sports News that, and I'm like, you guys do not learn. Everton are always going to be Everton. They're going to spend 80 to 100 mil every summer, and they're going to be the same. Everton are just going to be in mid-table again this season.
We'll wait and see. It could be an interesting one. Okay, next game, Sheffield United hosting hosting West Ham at Bramall Lane. Dot, kick us off on this one. What do you think the outcome of this game is going to be?
Yeah, I tipped Sheffield United for relegation this season. I just think when I look at them, they just look out of their depth in the Premier League. And when you look at their team player for player, you can argue that it's probably the worst in the Premier League. So I expect West Ham to get the 3 points. I think Ben Rama will play more of a pivotal part. He may not start the game, but I think he will actually feature for around 30 minutes. Yeah, I can't see goals in Sheffield United. I can't see, them scoring enough goals to win football matches. And I think if they are going to win football matches, they need to keep clean sheets. And they're not keeping clean sheets at the moment. Also, Ryan Brewster, he needs to start scoring as soon as possible. And I think if he doesn't score in this game, there's going to be pressure on his back because it's going to be 5 games without a goal.
That fixture list has been cruel, though. Very cruel. Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea. There's been some real tough games to really make it imprint.
No one looked at that there when
of course, but those are like the facts. Like if you're gonna look at it on a macro level and delve into the information, that's what you have to see. But I agree with you. I think Sheffield United, they're sort of like passion merchants. I think they're the team the most that have sort of not benefited from having their fan base because, they've sort of been found out this season, I have to be said. Like that three at the back formation, everyone knows it now. Teams know how to manage against it. And plus, you've got a team that aren't playing with much confidence. So that coupled together just means an average team. And yeah, I think it might be a draw, though. I think maybe 0-0 or 1-1.
Okay, cool. And then the next one up, we've got Aston Villa hosting Brighton at Villa Park. I'll start with you on this one, Dej. What's your prediction for that game?
I think Aston Villa, they're probably got a reputation of like the upset boys this season. They'll win the games that maybe you don't fancy them in, but this needs to be their bread and butter. At home to Brighton. Brighton are a team that like to play, so it's going to be a football match, which means there'll be spaces. And obviously for Jack Grealish, Barkley, Ollie Watkins to operate at their best, they need those spaces. And I think Brighton will provide that because I went to watch them, against Crystal Palace as well. And they're very expansive, very open. And I think that'll play to Aston Villa's strength. So I see them winning 2-1.
Okay.
I think Brighton are the best team in the league at playing well and getting 0 points. That's their problem. We've, said on several occasions this season that, wow, Brighton performed well. Brighton were unlucky. But at the end of the day, the league doesn't lie. And Brighton don't score enough goals to win football matches. So I think I don't see Brighton winning. I think it may be a draw. I think 2 good teams that play attacking football that have weapons, to hurt each other. So I think it will be a good watch. And I think it will be a score draw. I'm going to go with a Desmond 2-2.
Love that. Cool. Next up, we got Burnley versus Palace at Turf Moor. Dot, kick us off with this one. What are your thoughts?
Can Eberici Eze continue from the brilliant performance he put in against Leeds? Man of the match performance. Crystal Palace, they're a strange team because they have that in them. 1 week they're sensational, and then the next week you're thinking Roy has to go because he can't take this team any further. I don't know what the result is going to be. I think Crystal Palace may win the game because I just think they've got tools, and I think with Eze coming in, linking up with Wilf, Jordan Ayew seems to be on decent form now. And Townsend, who started the season very well, he's arguably been their best player this season with Saha. So I think Palace are just going to have too much.
Do you share the same sentiment, Dej?
I think this game is going to be a draw. I think Palace are a team that will blow hot and cold throughout the season. You'll see them 1 week and think, wow, everything clicked together. Eze was on form, Zaha, Ayew. Then there's games where you think, like, what's going on? And I think that goes down to the manager, Roy Hodgson. Personally, for me, I think this will be his last season in charge at Crystal Palace because I think the style that he wants to play and the players at his disposal, there's a bit of a disparity. But I think Sean Dyche, he is a manager that hasn't been backed, and I think he deserves better from Burnley over the service that he's given to the club. I think they only signed like 1 or 2 players, That's not good enough. Like they're a team that are a mid-table side, but with no investment, they can easily get relegated, and they're definitely in that relegation dogfight, alongside West Brom, Fulham, those teams. And yeah, I think it'll be a draw, 1-1. I'm going.
Okay. And finally, I'm still going to stay with you on this one, Dej, to kick us off. I think this is definitely one of the games of the weekend, and I'm happy that I think it's a Monday night football, which is perfect. Wolves hosting Southampton at Molineux. What are your thoughts on that game?
I think that's Southampton. very, very good side. I think they're unbeaten since the opening day of the season. Don't think they've lost since they lost to Crystal Palace. And even without Danny Ings, you know, Shea Adams is stepping up to the plate.
Steps up.
And we've always said that Ralph Hasenhüttl is an elite coach. And you can see it now. With the players he has at his disposal, Theo Walcott, he's having a renaissance. He's back in form, having an impact. We sort of writ him off when he was at Everton, saying, yeah, you know what, he's finished. He's washed up now. But he's looking lively. You know, he's looking like a spring chicken again. So... But Wolves, like when I watch them, I'm not infused. Like there's no real, they sort of wait, let's wait and see what happens. You make the game, we're going to hit you on a counter attack. I actually see Southampton going and winning that game, you know. So I think Southampton win 2-1.
How about you, Dot? What are your thoughts on that game?
I think Wolves will win it. I think Wolves will win the game 1 or 2-0. I think they're just too rigid, and you know, I think if Danny Ings is missing, it's just a big miss. I don't think they have enough to just break down that stubborn Wolves team. So I'm gonna go with Wolves to win 1-0.
I think Ahmed saying, lad, you heard about Dyche making commission. I read about that. Apparently, like if a player is developed through Burnley, he makes like 5%. So I think they use Dwight McNeil as an example. So like if he gets sold like 40 mil, he gets a cut out of that. So yeah, that's an interesting point, Ahmed.
Very, very interesting.
Daps asked a question as well.
Yeah, just
it's tough, man, because I think strikers are being asked to do new things now. So I don't think you can really say this striker is the perfect Aguero replacement. But I think if I had to pick one personally, it would be João Felix. I don't see him as that type of player. But I think under Pep Guardiola in a Man City system, that boy is going to be special.
No, he's a generational talent. But if you're asking me to say a striker, I'll go for Lautaro Martinez. From Inter Milan. I think he's like the next up after this next generation of strikers. I've watched him at Inter Milan, and he's the modern day centre forward. He can get in the channels. He's the perfect Aguero replacement, in my opinion. But he fits that prototype.
You know, he's tipped to go to either Real Madrid or Barcelona, so I don't see
that's the problem.
Actually getting him.
There's very few. When you think about it, there are very, very few top.
Harry Kane? I think you forget the young strikers, but I think Harry Kane is someone that Man City should be looking at.
Do you think they'll have enough coins to get him out of Tottenham, and will Tottenham want to sell? They're aspiring to get to that level, so would they want to sell to Man City? I don't think it's conceivable, in my opinion.
And you know how much of a shrewd negotiator Daniel Levy is. That's
definitely.
You know, you're going to have to break the bank for Harry Kane.
I don't think any team will pay the price that Harry Kane is valued at, because I don't think he's worth that price, or teams don't see him as worth that price. I think 2 years ago, when he was fit and he never got injured and he was just delivering consistently, maybe you can slap 150 mil and someone will buy him. But now I think he would just be priced out of the market.
It is a very, very interesting one, man. And of course, we're definitely going to have to just wait and see. I think, like you mentioned earlier, Dej, with Pep now signing that 2-year extension, inevitably there will have been promises around investment and rebuilding. But how that matches up against the availability of players that are at that level to, you know, really come and take the helm or take the mantle from Aguero is going to be very, very difficult. I think that, you know, you've got a handful of players, Lautaro Martinez, you've got Mbappe, Haaland, João Felix. But then after that, you know, so we'll have to wait.
I think Haaland's representatives came out and said that, it's not inconceivable that at the end of the season he could be leaving the club, but he does want to win trophies at Borussia Dortmund. And I think there is a clause in his contract that if a team bids it, they'll be able to speak to him. So yeah, that one's a bit of a tricky situation.
We'll have to wait and see. Sweet. All right. Anyway, I think we're gonna call it a day there. Thank you all for tuning in. It's been a pleasure, and we're absolutely going to make sure we do this far more regularly. So, like I said, if you're not yet subscribed, make sure you do, and also make sure that you sign up to the notifications as well, so that whenever we go live, you can get notified and you can join us. We've really, really enjoyed all of you guys leaving your comments. Shout out to all of you guys. Too many names to mention. Daps, Ebbs, Fresh, Ahmad. All of you guys have been really, really great to chat with. Please, if you haven't yet liked the video, just look down right now. Just look down. The button's right there. Like, before you leave, just make sure you hit the like button. And honestly, it goes a long way to helping us build a platform. A reminder, if you're not following us on Twitter, it's at podcast_TBG. On Instagram, it's at pod_TBG. Listen to all of our episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. And just keep it locked, man. Stay with us. Keep supporting us. All of your support, we really, really appreciate it. But we've got big things coming, guys. So make sure you stay up to speed. We've got big interviews coming, big episodes, and all the rest of it. So thanks again. And we're going to catch you on the next live stream or the next.
When's the next live? We might have something special on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we may have something.
That's why we're telling you guys, man, subscribe and all of that stuff, man, so you know exactly what's happening, because we might just pop up on you. So just stay locked, keep your eyes and ears peeled. And I think that's pretty much it. Have we forgotten anything?
No.
That's everything covered, yeah.
All right, man. Sweet. Until the next time then, guys. Over and out.